Welcome everyone to our last low-code, no-code Devtoberfest session for today. But it's a very special live session dealing with S/4HANA and creating extensions using SAP Build Apps, which is a topic that I've heard many people talk about and want to know more about. But before we begin with our guest speakers, I just want to remind you to join the Devtoberfest group in the SAP community, so that you can be eligible for the Devtoberfest contest, whose grand prize is an all-expense-paid trip to California to the SAP Newport Beach offices, as well as a VIP excursion to a very nice vacation destination. I will leave a link to the Devtoberfest group. Remember to join it. I will also leave a link to today's tutorial. So after you finish the session, please complete the tutorial. And that will get you some points towards that grand prize. So now I'd like to welcome Sarah and Ilya. I just want to say that they have a very great job, a really nice job. They build end-to-end BTP scenario enablements, demos, and learning materials. So they have to have a very deep knowledge of a range of products, in this case, S/4HANA and SAP Build Apps. So feel free to listen to what they have to say and also ask whatever questions you have in the chat. So go ahead, Sarah and Ilya.
Cool. Thank you, Daniel. So thank you all for joining. And first of all, I have to say that that prize really sounds nice. I would love to go to California, but I will stay here and do this presentation for you and not going for the trip. Cool. So hi and welcome. I am Sarah, and together with Ilya, I will show you today how to build SAP S/4HANA extensions with SAP Build and Key User Extensibility. So I will start giving you a short introduction on the theoretical part, but we will also have like a live demo later. And of course, I will give you some background what the app is about, which we want to develop there. Cool. Before we start, let's answer first the questions. Why do we need extensions? So we need extensions to keep the core clean. But I often heard a term that we should keep the core clean to ensure that the business is future-proof. But what does it mean? So if we look word by word, we have the word clean, which means up-to-date, transparent, unmodified, consistent, and cloud compliant. And we have, of course, core. And basically, our goal is that extensions we are building should not break the upgrade, and the upgrades we are doing should not break the extension. And if we keep the core clean, we have a few benefits. For example, we have a reduced TCO by reduced the need of testing and adoption. We have enhanced agility because we have minimized our modification to the system so we can easily upgrade our system, and we have fast innovation by using predefined services from BTP, for example. So this is why we should keep the core clean. But the next question we have is, how should we do that? And within SAP, we have different opportunities or different options to extend and system. And they are different options depending on your skill profile you have in your company and your business needs. On the one hand, we have a key user extensibility, which allows that business user can make simple extensions within S4 on the standard functionality. For developers, they can also do extensions within S4 with the on-stack developer extensibility, where you can write custom ABAP code. For example, if you really need to have a coupled extensions where you have to do SQL statements, and you need to have SQL access to the S4 system. So this is all very tight coupled to S4. But there might be also reasons why you want to have a decoupled extensions for S4. And this is where the side-by-side extensibility comes in place. For example, you want to or allow a user group to access data, but you don't want to give them access to your S4 system. Therefore, you build like an independent application that interacts with the S4 system. And also here, there are different ways to do that. You can use SAP Build, which enables business users to create extension applications. And in case you want to dig deeper or do more individualized use cases, you can use the CAP or RAP functionality for your developers to create extensions. Okay, today we want to focus on the key user part. So we want to build in extensions with key user extensibility as well as SAP Build apps. So first, let's have a look what key user extensibility is about. So key user extensibility is basically a tool set of different applications which allow you to make modifications in the system. There are different applications you can use. For example, you can do the UI adaptations where you can move different fields of your UI or also delete fields. In case you want to add new fields to your system, you can create custom fields, which creates new fields in the UI as well as in the database. You can also do validation of your entries with the custom logic app. One thing where we want to focus today is the custom business object, which allows you to handle custom data with the custom business object app. And what you can also do is to do custom CDS view to create analytical reports and dashboards. Cool. So let's have a closer look what the custom object app is all about. In this application, you can create database tables, services, UI, and application based on such business objects. This is how it looks like in the system. So you can create new business objects, you can give it names, and then you have different features already predefined where you can just add via checkmark. For example, you have the determination and validation feature, which can be used to implement custom logic, for example, like display error messages. You have the user interface, which generates automatically a Fiori UI on top of your business object. And you also have like the backend services feature, which generates an OData API, so you can really access this data from the outside. What we will also use is the system administrative data, which generates standardized fields such as created on, created by, last changed on, and last changed by. Cool. So I think this is everything you need to know for key user extensions. So let's have a look on the other part, which is the SAP Build. And before we start with SAP Build, SAP Build is part of SAP BTP. And BTP is the foundation to build side-by-side extensions on SAP products. So SAP BTP is a unified but open platform that combines various capabilities for extension development in one platform. For example, we have the app development, which really has low-code tools, but also professional developer tools that makes it easy to build applications. We have automation tools like SAP Build Process Automation that helps you to automate your routine tasks. There is the option or the capability for integration. So BTP provides. So let's give you a short overview what possibilities there are within SAP BTP to extend your system. On the one hand, we have the SAP Build portfolio, which is targeting like a business user group. There we have SAP Build apps to create applications. We have process automations to automate routine tasks. And we have Build Work Zone, which is like one central access point for all your different applications. There are also developer or pro developer toolings available, like the Business Application Studio, which is an web IDE. You can choose between different programming models like Java or the Cloud Application Programming Model, which is for Java and Node.js, or you can use the ABAP programming model. And of course, there's also ensured that you have a good API integrations to other systems. For example, you can use predefined APIs with the Business Accelerator Hub. So let's have a closer look what SAP Build Apps is about, but again, Ilya will show you later in details. So the idea behind SAP Build Apps is to empower everyone to create applications in a visual way. So you drag and drop different features to your application, and then you have it basically ready. It comes with pre-built components that makes it easily to connect SAP and non-SAP systems to your application. And of course, you don't have to work alone on your project. You can also invite team members for your project so you can build the app together. This is how it looks like in the system. As I said, you can use like the drag and drop function to create your application. You can use formulas. For example, you can add the business logic to open a new page while clicking on a component, and you can also connect the APIs. So we want to show you today a business scenario or a tutorial which we created as part of actually a learning journey. So in case you're interested, you can have a look on the complete learning journey. But today we want to show you a short demo of it. And therefore I want to explain what is the business scenario behind, why did you build this demo application? So the idea is you own a company which has to do or which needs to buy different products for their daily task. And of course, if you buy products, you somehow need to check if everything is good and the delivery was correct. And actually, there is, at least in Germany, there's also like a law where you have to ensure that this quality is there. This is how the procurement process looks like now. And the problem is that here for those checks, there's no standard thing in S4 ready. So everything is done now with paper documents. And of course, this is not the way it should be like in this year. So we want to create an app which is here for the check of the delivery. This is how it looks like in more detail. So we have a purchaser which defines a classification for different products, and those are mapped to the product. And the purchaser also creates the purchase order in the S4 system. On the other side, we have a warehouse operator. So this is the guy who gets the products if they come to the warehouse. And each time a new product is there, he searches for the purchase order and the item. So he knows what is the stuff I have here in this order. Then according to the item, there is a different or a checklist predefined per item. So some things need to be checked, other things like for other stuff. So the warehouse operator checks or gets this checklist, and he just looks through if everything is correct or not. And if the checks fail, he then enters a description. And of course, after he done all his checks, he wants to save the check results, and those are then again saved in SAP S/4HANA Cloud. And this is basically the flow which Ilya wants to show you now as part of our short demo. Are you ready?
I hope so. You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll try to share my screen, and I will try to do this really fast because we spent some time. I hope my screen is visible, right? Anybody?
It is.
Okay, perfect. Good. So we will start from S for HANA Cloud. And let's start from the standard part of S for HANA Cloud. So we created some classification to implement this scenario. And I will show you this standard functionality of classification. So we created a class, the characteristic for this class, and this characteristics has values. So these are the simple values for the checklists. We have 3 checklists: default, chemical products, and dangerous goods. And these checklists will be used to classify our materials. So then we have our material. Let's imagine if we go to manage product master data and select any material, in our case, it will be workshop material. And we classify this material with our classification. So I will go to edit mode. And the idea behind that every material can be classified with the checklists that with the checks that has to be done later in the warehouse. So for example, we will get our material from some supplier. And if this material is normal one, then we do some default checks. If this is some dangerous goods or some special material, then we'll do some special checks. So in our case, we could select, okay, this is default checklist will be used for this material and the chemical products. We can also for sure extend this list. So this was done. And then the last step, the purchaser, as Sarah said, will create a purchase order with this material. So we created some of them to demo our app later. So maybe I can purchase order. I can show them in the standard app of S/4HANA. So the purchaser will create them, and let's imagine that these purchase orders are sent to the supplier. They will process it and send the goods to warehouse. So yes, exactly. So we have some purchase orders. Let's take this one, for example. It's already approved. And the purchasing has been started. The process has been started. Exactly. So the purchase contains our workshop material, hopefully. Yeah, exactly. So now we will go to the role of key user or citizen developer, let's say. So what we do, the key user goes to custom business object. This is a part of key user extensibility, as Sarah said already. And the idea that we create or model, let's say, our custom business objects, and as soon as they publish, they will generate some objects in the background, but it's not visible for the key user. So we created 2 business objects. One is for checklists. And if you create the custom business object, you also need to decide whether you need some special logics, whether you need your UI generated automatically, or it should be a service exposed as a data. And also if you need some technical fields like created on, created at in your database tables. Then you define also nodes. And we define normally 2 nodes. So one is for header, one is for items. Yeah, it can be, the structure can be absolutely different, but not for our case. And we also define the fields. So in our case for checklists, we used the technical name of checklist, whether this checklist is default or not, some description and instructions which should be done by the warehouse clerk. You see also the fields which were pre-generated, like administrative fields. And for checklist item, we just have one text, which is used for the checks themselves. So let me show you an example. So as soon as you publish the custom business object, you will get the UI. And this UI is accessible only if you have rights for this. I would show you the catalogs functionality, but we don't have time for that. Sorry. You can check our learning journey later for that. So I will go to generated UI for this checklist business objects, and you see this generated UI already has everything you need for maintaining the data inside the tables created behind. So in this case, we have 3 checklists created exactly as we did for our classification. So they should match. And for example, for default checklist, we have already 2 checks, whether the goods were ordered or is the packaging undamaged. So we can do the same for other checklists. And then we have the data. And besides that, we created another business object, which is called JRChecks. JRCheck, and this business object is necessary to save the data after the warehouse clerk is ready with these checks in the warehouse. So the same has the same structure, one header table, let's say, another is item table. And we have this here, purchase order and purchase order item as key fields. And in item level, we have name, status, and result of the checks done. We can also for sure manage the length of fields and everything which is normally accessible from the database table creation. So I need to accelerate myself. Exactly. As soon as you created all this stuff, you can create all the communication management artifacts. In our case, it will be communication scenario. So you create communication scenario to expose the services for the communication management. This is an example of our scenario. So we expose all our CDS created by the custom objects. And you publish this scenario, and then it can be used to create communication arrangement, which is normal standard procedure in S/4HANA Cloud. So you create a communication arrangement where you define how the APIs will be accessed. In our case, we have chosen the basic authentication. We use some technical user, but there could be also some user propagation authentication methods used, like SAML or some other stuff to propagate your user. So we use the easiest one, the basic one, and we see also our endpoints for our standard objects. The same we can do for the standard APIs like purchase orders or classification API, which we also use in this scenario. But I will not show you this. It's more or less the same procedure described in the help documentation. So after all this is done, you can go already to SAP BTP to create your application. So let me open this. And in SAP BTP, we have a sub account created for to develop our build apps and also to deploy this app. But before you go to this most interesting part, you should prepare your destinations. So to make somehow the proxy for your S/4HANA cloud. So we created several destinations exactly with the endpoints from the communication arrangements. So for example, for JRCheck entity, we use the endpoint provided in the communication arrangement. We also define the authentication method, provide our credentials. In this case, it's our technical user. And what is important, we provide also additional parameters to make this destination visible in the build apps. And let's go to the build apps. Let me start the lobby. Hopefully my password is safe, perfect. And I prepared already the demo app, so I will not develop it from the beginning, even though I have only 1 minute. It's not so fast. Yeah? So let's see what we prepared for this demo.
Ilya, you have as much time as you need, so don't worry about it.
Okay. Fine. And I made some changes maybe before. Okay, perfect. So this is our design time development screen. And what we can do here, we can basically, I think, as you saw already in previous sessions in this Oktoberfest week, so you can just drag and drop fields and you can say, okay, I want to add another fields for filtering, but I will show you how we did it. So we have search criteria to search for purchase order or for materials. And basically, if you click search button, then we want to see the list of our purchase orders. And for that, for sure, you should implement BTP authentication as soon as you want to use destinations in SAP BTP. And then add all your entities which you need for this project. Let me show you shortly what we need for this project. So these are our two custom business objects, which I showed you already before. And we have also standard APIs. So one of them is API for purchase order, and we use a purchase order item entity. One API for classification to get the material classification, and also another API is for defect. So as soon as the warehouse clerk found any defect, there will be a so-called defect object created in the background. So that's it, what we need. And let's go here, and I will show you the basics of field apps. So what we need basically, we can have the fields here. We can assign them to some variables, for example, page variables. And we can say, okay, when we click search button, then we go here and just create simple logic chain. Yeah. What I'm doing, for example, I'm show spinner. I'm reading the data from the background, reading purchase order item, this custom condition for purchase order, use purchase order, for material, clear. And then if everything is done, I just assign this to data variable to store the data temporarily. And after this is done, I can also show this data on the screen. So I make this component, which is called, I forgot how it's called, results list item, exactly. And I repeat it with our data variable. So this is really easy. You can do it really fast. And let's already check whether it works. What is also nice in build apps, you can always open parallelly the screen with the preview. And as soon as you make changes, the screen will be also updated. So as we saw, as I click purchase, we see the spinner, and then the results will be shown here. These are exactly these 4 purchase orders which we had in the back in the hours for HANA Cloud system. So as soon as we click on this one of these items, what we did further, there will be logics that we check whether the checks were already done for this purchase order item. Then we have if condition, if the checks were already done. So we have simple formulas here, like in Microsoft Excel. So if the checks were already done, then we show the message, checks were already done. If not, then we open the next page. And let's go to the next page. Sorry if this is a bit too fast, but yeah, I need to hurry up a bit. So on the next page, we have also the logics here. So we get all the checklists which we had in our custom business objects. We get the classification for the selected material in the purchase order item. And then we make this magic with some a bit complicated formula. But if you read about the formulas and examples given in the documentation in build-ups, it's more or less clear afterwards. And the magic works. So as soon as I select in my preview any purchase order item, I can see the checklists from the background, and only the checklists will be marked which are classified for that. So for example, for this material, we classified that this material has default checklist and chemical goods. That's why we see this marked. And warehouse clerk can decide, okay, no, it's not chemical product. It was a mistake from our back office. It's maybe dangerous goods instead. So he can also choose it, or maybe all 3, doesn't matter. As you see, the instructions will be adjusted accordingly here. And you can also decide then the warehouse warehouse clerk can do these checks already with the package. Yeah. So he checks, for example, have the goods been ordered? Yeah. Okay. Is the package not damaged? No, it's not okay because the package was almost destroyed. Yeah. Destroyed. And if the UN number recognizable, I think it's somehow obligatory for dangerous goods. Yeah, maybe okay, yes. And then he can press save checks, and I will show you what will be done in the background. So you can also see in design time, you click save checks, then we check whether any check failed. If yes, then the defect record will be created. And then we will proceed to save result of these checks. Yeah, also we have a lot of toast stuff to show the error log in case of any errors. So let me then save checks. So like it's done here. We see that the defect will be saved, the checks will be saved. It's a bit fast. And then we can search again. And if you click the same purchase order, I don't remember exactly which one was it. Hopefully this one, exactly. So you see that the checks already done for this item. Now let's go to S/4HANA site and see what was the result of our build apps processing. I open again S/4HANA Cloud. And we go to our custom business object before. To our check custom business object and to the UI of this business object. And we see this entry, this is exactly now, was saved. And we see all the results saved here. So this check was okay. This check was not okay. And why it was not okay is also saved here. And we see also some administrative data. Who did it? So in our case, it was a communication user, and also for which purchase order it was done. And the next artifact which was created is a defect. We go to process defect application. And hopefully we will see exactly. So this is the last one, I suppose. And exactly we see here in the description that this was defect for this purchase order. And in description, we see failed checks. Yeah, later if you would use, if we would develop this application further, we could, for example, make some attachments here with some photos. But for now, let's stop on this. This was already complicated enough. So that's basically what I wanted to show you. And back to you, Daniel. Hope I can stop sharing.
Oops. Okay. Till I get my camera ready. I just wanted to ask you, first of all, I wanted to apologize everybody for the technical difficulties. I wanted to ask you, Ilya or Sarah, basically when we're creating an extension, we often basically want to create our own tables. Okay, so I've seen cases where people create a CDS view, or in your case, a custom business object, or there are visual cloud functions in SAP Build Apps, or I have a HANA database, or there are other options. Can you talk about some of the decisions that are made, based on like, where do I put this extra data? How do I decide where to put this extra data?
Yeah, it depends on what skills you have, first of all. So, for example, in our case, we showed the use case with key user extensibility, right? But even in this case, you have some other options. So, as you mentioned, we can have custom CDS view, which is also nice, but we wanted to have custom business objects as soon as there is a possibility to make this hierarchy, like header and items level, which is a bit better than it can be done in CDS view, which is also maybe possible there, but not so obvious. The approach is not so obvious there. So that's why we use custom business object. As for Visual Cloud Functions, this also can be done there. We just wanted to bit restrict our functionality, not to have three different, let's say, not three different places. So we put everything in S/4HANA Cloud, but it could be done in Visual Cloud Functions as well, right?
Okay. There's a few questions in the chat. If you could look at them, I'll just mention one of them. It says custom business objects may be useful for S/4HANA Cloud earlier if we need to create a table or a set of tables, but is it useful for S4 on premises where we can create tables directly in SE11?
Yeah, it's also a nice question. So in on-premise world, you can for sure create everything, right? But Sarah mentioned for the keep core clean strategy, we don't really want, or we want to propose another way of doing modifications and extensions for our system. So as soon as you have key user extensibility, you can bring, let's say, more people even without above skills or without any other skills there, and make maybe the core cleaner, and make your also your journey with, for example, going to cloud also easier. Yeah, so make migrating to the cloud or migrating to other systems easier. So I would prefer in this case this functionality, but for sure it's limited. And in on-premise world, you can do much more if you have above skills, or if you have if you want to make it more technical, let's say.
Okay. Another question says, how can I change workflows when these ones have custom changes? About maintaining these types of extensions.
I didn't get the question.
When there needs to be changes in this type of extension, or maintaining these extensions. That's what I assume the question means.
Yeah, maybe I didn't get it, but you just can go there and change it. So if, for example, if later you need some more fields, you can just easily go to this custom objects and change the type of the field, the length of the field, or even add new fields, add new logics if you have some above.
Okay.
Skills, even though. Yeah.
Very good. If you can check the chat and just answer some of the questions in the chat, and even if it's not in time for the end of this session, people can go and see the answers. Thank you so much for being here. I mean, it seems like a great extension and an example that I think will be useful for a lot of people. So thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Thanks to
Thank
everyone.
you.
I
wanted to remind everybody to join the Devtoberfest group to be eligible for the contest and the prizes, also to discuss the event itself, and also to do the tutorial for this session so you can earn points to the prize. I appreciate everybody for attending. Again, I'm sorry for the technical difficulties, and I hope to see you at additional sessions next Tuesday and beyond. Have a good day.